Do you like constitutional? But what happens if you have a lot of constitutional? What's up, everyone? Tiger Stacker here. You like silver, don't you? Of course you do. And you like to know what you've got? Of course you do. You like bullion? Of course you do. You like poured silver? Many do. Do you like constitutional? Many of you do. How much constitutional do you have? Do you know? I do. I keep a spreadsheet that I use to show how much I got so that I can maintain an idea. Also, if I ever get robbed, they're only going to get part of it because it's kept in different locations, but I know where it is, how much ounces everything is. Keep a spreadsheet, which I do recommend all of you do for yourselves. But on a prior video, I showed you how constitutional is a little harder to work because it is not straight pure bullion. We all know that $1.40 of constitutional is equivalent to 1 troy ounce. But what happens if you have a lot of constitutional? What's a lot? That's for you to determine for yourself. I would consider anything a lot that makes you work your math, and that could be 5 coins, that could be 5 tubes. That could be a bag, could be whatever it is that makes your life a little bit more stressful. That's what I would consider a lot. So this video is to show you how much you've got as easy as you can. I know some of you do not like math, and that's okay. I've got a way that I have found that you can do without using math and find out what it is that you have as easily as possible. So the video is to help all of you. I use it every time I do my spreadsheet for constitutional only, and that information is then entered into the spreadsheet. Let me show you what I do. I go to Google and type in junk silver melt calculator, and a bunch of websites come up. One website no longer comes up. It was my favorite. There's a new one that came up with APMEX. Before APMEX came up, the one I used really awesome. And I used to also sometimes use coinapps.com. Well, the one I preferred quit being functional, and it's no longer on this list. But when I compared that one to coinapps.com, they came up with the exact same final values. AppMex, I've compared with coinapps.com, and it tends to come up shy each and every time. So they've got to fix their website as far as I'm concerned, but I'll show it to you for educational purposes. So here you will see the silver in US dollars. What I don't like about this website is that you cannot change this value, which I'll explain here in a little bit. What I do like about this website, it was like the one I preferred in the way that you could put in barber dimes, barber quarters, barber half dollars. And this one does not, for some reason, does not include American silver dollars, which I never used anyway because that's straight bullion. And I use this solely for 90% constitutional. Now, what if you have other dimes, quarters, and half dollars before barber? Well, these websites all consider that the weight will be about the same, so it doesn't matter. This is more for categorization than it does weight. And this is all supposed to be an estimate, unless you really just want to weigh it and then go ahead and put everything onto a scale, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to come out of this website. So it'll eventually give you the total weight in troy ounces, grams, kilograms, and the total silver value based upon this value here. But as I said, it tends to undershoot what I found in the other two websites, one of which is gone. So let's go to coinapps.com. And this one I find to be more accurate mathematically, but you'll have to do a little bit of fudging, and I'll show you why. Now, this website I like because you can change the value. This gives you the melt value, but you can highlight it and put in the spot value, which is sometimes the same, usually a little bit more. Now, this one here will start off with Mercury dimes, standing quarters, and walking Liberty half dollars. And it also does include the 40% as the previous website. It puts in American silver eagles. Once again, I don't use it because that's straight bullion. So basically what I do is the same. So in this case, I would use barber dimes and seated liberties and anything else. Now, I typically don't have very many seated liberties or bust caps. They're for my teaching box. But if I want to see a basic idea of what I have, I'll add all those in, plus the Mercury dimes, and add it here. And as per the other two websites I've mentioned, they estimate the weight to be about the same. So the topic of quarters, standing liberty, I would add in the barbers, the seateds, the cap busts, etc. Also, if you have a bunch of half dimes, I just add them in to the dimes. And if you come up with 0.5, don't add it in. It won't do the calculations. So you have for the half dollars, I'll put in the barbers, the seateds, the cap busts, etc. in here. Also, if you want to know how much your commemoratives are, which I do personally, I add in them into the topic of the Roosevelts or the Washington quarters or the Kennedy half dollars, because what I care about is the weight. Now, if you want to be a purist, you don't have to add those in. Just put in what you got. Also, what I like about these websites is for the 40 percenters. I add in also the 40% bicentennial quarters. But how do you do that? It's real simple. I put in there 40% Kennedy, and it shows you the dollar figure right here. Then what I do is I just divide it by half and multiply that value times the amount of 40% bicentennial quarters that I have, and have my spreadsheet added in. So let's say you have 300 war nickels. That's the value. Now let's say this is the melt value, but let's say it's 55 cents for the spot. Then you see it changes the total value. Let's say you have 309 Mercury dimes. You can see that each time you add a digit, it changes the value automatically. Note it changes troy ounces, pounds, kilograms, and grams, plus the dollar value. Roosevelt's, let's say you have 55. Standing Liberty quarters, let's say you got 90. Washington quarters, let's say you got 57. Walking Liberty half dollars, let's say you have 89. Franklin halves, let's say you have 33. Kennedy half dollars, let's say you got 24. 40% Kennedy halves, you have 78. Morgan dollars, you have 50. Peace dollars, let's say you got 65. And Eisenhower's, let's say you have 12. Now you have an idea based upon this dollar figure, $8,746.23 total silver value, 226.88 troy ounces, 7,056.76 grams. And that's what I end up putting into my spreadsheet that I use for my calculations to add into what I have for my stray bullion. So I hope this does help you, because I really want you all to be able to figure out what you've got. And I know many of you don't like to do the math. When it comes to putting my spreadsheet together, I don't want to do the math either. I want to use that website that I just showed you. So feel free to go look it up. I put it in the description down below. I hope this helps all of you. Tiger Stacker out.